My grandmother taught me to love worms. With her nose pressed against the glass of our living room window on the south side of Chicago, Gram would shout excitedly, "Hurry, the rain has stopped. Put on your shoes, let's go outside or we'll miss him." My twin brother and I would scramble outside, screw the shoes, to sit on our haunches, feet pressed into the cool sidewalk, eyes scanning for worms. Throughout her 96 years of life, my grandmother maintained a sense of wonder and delight at everyday details. She was the first to say, "I don't know," which always meant the start of an adventure. Hurrying to our local library or family encyclopedia to answer the question, and usually ask new ones. This response was a humble one, guided by curiosity but not naive. My grandmother grew up poor, raised 6 children, worked full-time into her 70s. In her old age, she could have acted merely as a font of wisdom for later generations, made up stories for my brother and me when we asked her things that she didn't know. Instead, she made the conscious choice to transform her ignorance into a fascination with the question mark. Because of her, I grew up seeing ignorance not as a bad thing, but as a decision point. Simply put, when you find yourself in a situation where you don't know what's going on or feel forced out of your comfort zone, you have a decision. Do you shut out new knowledge and its possibilities, or do you remain open-minded and ask a question? Risk looking dumb, sure, but gaining the possibility of learning something really valuable. One choice stunts growth, while the other catalyzes it. I'm here to offer a perspective on why ignoring ignorance is a losing proposition, and to suggest 3 things we can do to transform ignorance into a vehicle for discovery and innovation. We certainly can't transform ignorance, though, if we refuse to recognize it in the first place. That means confronting the fear of exposure, judgment, and shame. For example, 2 female employees at the tech company Salesforce wanted their CEO, Mark Benioff, to recognize a major problem at the company: significant gender and racial pay parity gaps. Initially shocked and incredulous, Benioff agreed to conduct an audit of the company, a chance to uncover ignorance. They discovered that over 1,000 employees did not receive equal pay, and instead of hiding it, they published the findings. They used the experience as a catalyst for change, adjusting staff salaries and becoming an advocate for the same kind of self-assessment at other companies. For Salesforce, for other companies, for us, avoiding self-audit is the easier path, often ingrained in the way we work. Researchers at Loyola University refer to this trait earned dogmatism. It's behavioral, where the more we think we know and the more we consider ourselves experts, the more likely we are to look to confirm that knowledge rather than root out what we don't know. As famed investor Warren Buffett says, what the human being is best at doing is incorporating all new information so that their prior conclusions remain intact. So, as a kid, I worked as a golf caddy at a course near my home for 7 summers. When I got there, I quickly realized that there was an entire social dynamic to the job. Players expected me to be an entertainer, a source of conversation and stories, not just a carrier of clubs. But the golfers were much different than me. Let's face it, they were mostly older men with really high-end jobs, and at first I felt like I had nothing to say to them. They felt so different than me, foreign almost, and it was pretty scary. But I decided to take my grandmother's lead and transform my ignorance into that fascination with the question mark. So, as I carried their bags of fairways and greens, I also asked a lot of questions. This included asking Eugene Fama what he meant by a random walk. I hadn't realized that he was a Nobel laureate in economics or that this theory was a core part of his work. But because I was willing to expose my ignorance and ask a question, I discovered what felt like entirely new worlds and systems of language than what I had known before. Not everyone, though, has such a friendly relationship with the question mark. At many companies, some see asking a big question as inconvenient and inefficient. But asking these big questions can allow us to see things that others can't. Ushahidi is a startup that crowdsources information from text messages and social media to map humanitarian and political crises in real time. It was started in just 2 days in the violent aftermath of Kenya's 2007 elections, as its founders questioned, is the media telling the full story here? If not, how do we build an accurate picture of what's really going on? This young company is revolutionizing crowdsourced information mapping, all because its founders asked questions, refused to stay silent, and in the process empowered entire generations to understand the strength of their own voices. Their rejection of ignorance catalyzed innovation. So if recognizing our ignorance and discovering how much we don't know is hard, taking the next steps to transform ourselves and innovate the systems we work in is even harder. We might be best at it when we're out of our element, experiencing our ignorance firsthand. Picture a large, dusty parking lot, surrounded by highways and sand dunes, with 10 impromptu cricket games being played. I'm there, sitting on a metal grate next to my cricket teammate, a Sri Lankan man who worked at the government hotel where I stayed, my first 8 months living in Qatar. As we pass around bags of delicious fried salty chaat after games, my teammates and I often talked about home. Their conversations humbled me. One hadn't seen his family in over 8 years because his passport had been confiscated when he first entered the country. Another described growing up surrounded by civil war. I moved to Qatar when I was 25 to work for the country's Museums Authority. Although I had never before visited the region, I had read everything and anything that I could about it before arriving. I quickly realized, though, how little that abstracted knowledge had prepared me for the realities I would see up close and personal, staring them in the eyes every day. Since then, I've continued to confront my ignorance in person, face to face, to view it as a path to learning, not embarrassment, to value questions, not silence. Beyond personal gratification, though, why would we take on the often painful, gritty task of transforming ignorance? In the corporate setting, it can often mean the difference between life and death. There's now an entire lexicon of names associated with not asking questions, not transforming ignorance. BlackBerry, Blockbuster, Kodak, Motorola, Xerox, and so many others. The decision to shut out new knowledge took them from market leaders to market irrelevance. So I ask you, when and where in your life, in your work, are you staying quiet, hoping that no one notices that you don't know? What question, potentially inconvenient but also potentially transformative, might you ask instead? Although my grandmother was in her 80s for much of my childhood, she never felt old. It was as if her constant investigation of her own ignorance, fueled by her endless curiosity, kept her young. For organizations and for individuals, it is dangerous to ignore ignorance, to become experts in vast knowledge that remains static, to stop asking questions, to stop exploring and inventing, to stop finding the wonder in the familiar. Ignorance is a catalyst for change. Get comfortable in its presence and continuously transform it into discovery and innovation. Adulthood and organizational growth should be about this continuous exploration. So, here's to a lifetime of adventure. Thank you. Thank you.